All right, today we're diving into a really powerful, kind of dark allegorical journey. It's all about transformation, rebellion, and, what it actually takes to build a new reality right from the ashes of a dead one.
So let's get one thing straight right from the get-go. The story of Wotan, this is not some accident. This isn't a story about a guy who just falls into madness or ruin. Nope. This is about an intentional, deliberate act of self-destruction, a strategic choice made for a very, very specific purpose.
And this is the whole key right here. Wotan looks around and realizes that the values of his world, his so-called moral North Stars, are basically a broken compass. They're only leading everyone to dead ends. So what does he do? He doesn't just question them, he completely abandons them. It's a pretty radical act of survival, especially when his entire world, his whole pantheon, is collapsing around him.
So where did all this start? Well, you have to picture Wotan standing there watching this thing called the heroic ideal just crumble. He sees all its values not as something noble, but as gilded chains of honor. They look beautiful, but in the end, they're just trapping everyone in this hollow, meaningless destiny.
In that crumbling city, he saw it as a cage for what's called the last man. And this is a super important concept for the story. The last man is this stagnant, apathetic being. No ambition, no drive, perfectly happy with a comfortable but totally empty existence. Wotan sees this hollow future, and chooses the exact opposite path, a path of radical, world-breaking action. And that's the absolute kicker. His dive into chaos wasn't him giving up. It wasn't a surrender at all. Think of it more like a controlled demolition. He was deliberately liquidating the past, clearing out all the psychological wreckage, just to make space for something completely new to be built, for a sovereign architect to rise up.
Okay, so how do you actually do that? How do you dismantle an entire world that lives inside you? For Wotan, the answer was, well, it was a brutal physical ritual of self-destruction.
Now, the tools he used for this, they weren't for building or creating order. They were mad runes. These things are like fractured symbols of an absolute, vibrating truth. They represent pure chaos, not control, and they were the key to this radical soul rewrite he was about to perform.
And this slide just lays out how unbelievably brutal this process is. He starts by taking up shards of the void itself. Then he literally carves this new chaotic alphabet into his own skin. And through that act, he bleeds out what he sees as human weaknesses, things like pity and fear. And finally, he replaces his entire internal operating system, his logic, with Der Wille, this raw primal energy of pure, untamed will.
So, Wotan has already started this intense internal rewrite, but his transformation is about to get kicked into overdrive by a powerful force from the outside. This moment, this is the real catalyst. It's the point of no return. At this point, his shattered mind is, well, it's primed. It's basically become a conductor for external magic. He isn't just trying to survive the storm of his own transformation anymore. He's actively trying to become the lightning itself. He wants to inhabit the very core of all that chaos.
And then, the catalyst shows up. A tarantula, marked with the rune of the Tyrant King, comes out and bites him. But his reaction isn't what you'd expect at all. He doesn't see it as an attack. Because his soul is already merging with this foundational chaos, he sees the bite as a sacred sign, a confirmation from the void itself telling him, yes, you're on the right path.
So this venom, which should be a deadly poison, ends up being the final ingredient in his transformation. It becomes the ultimate antidote to the very thing he was running from in the first place, apathy. This new energy gets a name, mad vitality. And it's described as the definitive cure for the cold apathy of the modern world. It is the fuel for the fire of the Overman, that transcendent, self-mastered individual he's fighting to become.
And with that final jolt of power, his transformation is pretty much complete. He laughs. He fully welcomes this chaotic energy, this new perspective that lets him see the deep absurdity in everything. He's no longer a victim of chaos. He is getting ready to become its master.
Which brings us to his final form, the Mad Rune King, the sovereign of a reality that he himself has willed into existence through nothing but sheer force and total self-destruction.
This comparison just nails the shift in perspective, doesn't it? Where the rest of us would see a terrifying collapse of order, of meaning, of everything we know, he now sees a shimmering, vital, absolute truth. Reality itself has literally warped to match his internal state.
So what does this new kingdom look like? Well, he's crowned, but not with that hollow gold he rejected. He's crowned with flickering lightning. He directs the laughter of the void itself with a steady hand, and he's no longer bound by anyone's laws. But it's a tragic triumph. He has achieved this state of horrific isolation. He's the undisputed master of a reality he willed into being, but a reality that only he can see.
And that brings us to the final, really haunting question. Wu-Tan got what he wanted. He became a sovereign architect. But when you rewrite the very fabric of reality to fit your own will, have you become a god? Or have you just become the last living person in a universe of one?